Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big results last night to determine which teams are going to go to the World Championship and which are not. But what about G2? They've already qualified for the World Championship from the Americas, but will Baby be playing, or will it be Leaf instead? Leaf with a big update last night, finally discussing what's been happening over the last few weeks and what might well happen in the future, saying he's hoping to return shortly, but that is far from a guarantee. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. We are going to start here with the Belly Sports Challenge 2025. This is a LAN event. Qubit Academy, they get the win. They take down SR Black in the finals. They win the Corrode 13-11. They win the Lotus 13-10. Close series, but Qubit, they get the job done. And as a result, they advance through to, by winning this, they are going to go to the Red Bull Homegrounds. So in November, there's Red Bull Homegrounds New York, and by winning this tournament, they've qualified, which is, pretty interesting, right? Because that means that not only will Qubit be there, but so will Sentinels. Like that seems to be the plan anyway. So both Sen and their academy will be there at the Red Bull Homegrounds, which is going to be very interesting indeed. And they'll be in New York in November after the World Championship is over. So could spend more time on that, but there's plenty else to discuss. We are going to continue. This is a big one. Edward Gaming yesterday, we saw the series that was unfolding. They won the buying. That was Billy's pick, 14-12. And they're like, okay, Edward, maybe they're back, right? Maybe they're going to continue what they've been doing quite impressively domestically for many years. But after losing the Haven, they lost the Haven 13-8. Then it was just, it really went downhill. The Lotus was okay, but the Ascent was just bad, like really bad. It's pretty tough to lose like this. Their map pick on the Ascent, 13-7, getting absolutely destroyed on the defensive side. I mean, how often, if I go to the defensive side here, how often do you see those stat lines for a defensive side of a Haven, of an Ascent, sorry? You're not seeing that every day. So, BLG take the victory. EDG, definitely not the team that they used to be, but they are going to be there at the World Championship. Kang not, the absolute dominant force we have seen of him before, and I don't think they're going to do much damage at the World Championship, but at least they get an opportunity, I suppose, to try to defend their title. So the China lower finals concluded, and that means the grand finals is now underway, and DRG are currently at 1-0. They've actually just demolished them on the Sunset 13-2. So there we go, the Haven's about to start. So it looks like DRG are at a good spot here to potentially win the Chinese grand finals. It would be pretty mega because, it's plausible DRG could win this and still not even come back next year, because they could get outplaced by XLG at the World Championship and then not make it through Ascension, but pretty unlikely with the way that they're currently playing. But what a story from those guys this season, the run that they've made as well. They're rematching Billy in the finals, and they've currently demolished them on the game one. Let's talk Europe though, because there were still some World Championship qualification results to determine there. And Vitality, I mean, what an absolute clown show. Like, it's just got to be said, hasn't it? This Vitality team this season, what they were cooking up, things started off quite well, then it went downhill, they got rid of Safe, then they brought him back, and they brought him back initially, it seems, just as like a sub, and then they decided, you know what, no, we're going to throw him in. So they had a game to play, and they decided, you know what, Safe, you're going into the starting roster, and, we'll see how that went. Fnatic, they didn't play great, but they did beat KC. I know that Kayak did a tweet and said that he's not feeling very, comfortable right now on stage, which I thought was interesting. You know what, I'll just quickly go to his Twitter profile here, and I'll just find the tweet real quick, because he did tweet out something like this. Off day for me. I'm not enjoying playing and having fun on stage right now for some reason. So, pretty interesting. Maybe a nice little reset after this championship. Going into the World Championship could be kind of helpful for him. But, Chronicle, great series from him. Boaster, Kayak in the negative, but it was okay. Sugetsu tried his best. Casey won the game, won Haven 14-12, and then after that, the Corrode was 14-12 back the other way, and the Bind was a little bit more comfortable. So, Fnatic get the job done. I'm not reading into these series too much because, as Kayak says, he might be a bit burned out right now and the World Championship is on the horizon. But you definitely do want to gather momentum. I think that is a key point. But with Casey losing, Sugetsu tried his best. Casey have tried a lot of things. Pyrol comes in, Ave, but, they both had a stinky final map here as they bomb out of the tournament. So KC, they're gone, right? They tried. They were intending to make it to the World Championship. French team, French organisation, Paris World Championship, and the two big French orgs didn't even make it, right? It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. I don't know what the French fans are going to support at Champions. There are, I don't know, Alex is the coach of, Paper X. they can support that, I guess. What else is there? I don't know. Aang obviously had a hard time. He says it was a good match, but our year is over. It's all on me. I did too many wrong decisions. If Casey wants somebody else instead of me, I will leave with no compensation, he says, which is pretty sad to read. It can't be all his fault, but I can understand why he is in some, fit in some type of way after Karmine Corp's season is over. Vitality, their season's over too. Look, Na'Vi aren't that great, really, are they? Like, respectfully, they've not had a great run recently, and they still just 2-0 Na'Vi, or they still 2-0 Vitality, right? So, look, Vitality, just an absolute clown show, as I say. 13-7 on the Haven, that was their map pick. Safe comes back in, right? He comes back in and, runs the ISO, map 1. Doesn't go to plan. Then the Haven was Na'Vi's pick. Vitality gave it a good go with the fake comeback, but eventually it wasn't enough. So, yeah, just what an absolute shambles for Vitality, really. And I do feel bad because, again, French Org, it would have been cool for them to make it. Durka is a player, and I'd like to see him at the World Championship, but he's not going to be there, right? So Durka, not very happy about it. Safe season is over again very shortly after it was over before, and as Vitality say, our season ends here. I mean, they literally won the kickoff, right? They had high hopes, didn't even make it to the World Championship. So yeah, look, we're at a point now where roster drama is about to start seriously unfolding because some of these teams are going to need to make some major adjustments. I wouldn't be surprised to see Les go back to Brazil. Maybe Sada could consider it as well. I guess we'll see, but no Durka at Champs, no Les at Champs, no Sadak at Champs, no Texture at Champs because Gen.G didn't make it, no Munchkin at Champs as well, no Kesnit, no Mazzino, no Crew, and we'll get to that in just a couple of seconds because Lev, they took down Crew, the team that every year seems to pull out some miraculous run to make it through to the World Championship. This year it did not happen, and Leviathan, fair play to them, they've made some good progress lately. We've seen some of their scrims getting a little bit better over time, and a 14-12 Lotus, they lost the Sunset 13-6, but then bounced back on the Haven 13-8 in the end to get over the line and Lev at least keep themselves in the hunt. They cannot qualify on points. What they can do is qualify on making it to the finals. Still pretty unlikely, but their run stays alive, and especially because Crew lost, that means that MIBR made it guaranteed. So because they had 9 points more than anybody else, it's no longer possible for them to get overtaken by two separate teams, MIBR, and as a result they will be at the World Championship this year. As Aspas says, my 4th year playing, my 4th champions. I'm very happy. Wasn't my best year, but I'll make this qualification worth it. Thanks all so much to the people that supported me. I'm in Paris and I'm ready to play. I'm really eager to play, he says. So I think it's kind of nice to see. We know that Aspas is, I don't want to say, we don't really know exactly, but there's a feeling that Aspas has maybe been struggling with motivation to some degree, and understandably that maybe makes sense because the team hasn't been looking so good, but you can see the smile on his face here as Leviathan get over the line and he realizes, okay, I'm going to be there at Champions. I get to play again, guaranteed. And that puts MIBR in a strong position maybe to at least gather some momentum and play with some confidence at the World Championship. And look, maybe there's nothing to lose, and he's straight on TripAdvisor looking up his run to Paris. The other match in the Americas though was in some sense hilarious, and that was 100 Thieves versus Evil Geniuses. So I'm just bringing this up from rib.gg here, runitback.gg. This is 100 Thieves run. So this is their map pick rate and their match win rate on all of these maps. So some maps they're just not good at, right? Like Icebox, for example, they just don't win it at all. They're pretty good on attack, but terrible on defense, as you can see. The green line is match win rate. Corrode, they've won every time they've played it. Not many times, but they've won every time they've played it. Binds is a very, very good map for 100 Thieves. 100 T's map pool, as you can see, their strength in depth, their map pool is not very good. They're good at Corrode, they're good at Binds, they're okay at Lotus, they're pretty good at Haven, actually. They're bad at Sunset, bad at Ascent, bad at Icebox. So, 100 Thieves map pool is not very deep. But Evil Genius's map pool looks like this. They like playing Ascents, they're okay at Corrode as well. They don't like playing Binds, but they played it. And I don't really understand really what was going on with the thought process here, because 100 Thieves banned Lotus, EG banned Sunset, 100 T then picked Binds, EG then picked Corrode, and Ascent was then left over. But both these maps, Bind and Corrode, I don't understand what EG were really thinking allowing Bind to get played, because 100 T are so good at this map, and EG are not good at it at all and don't play it. and they just got destroyed, right? Like, this came as no surprise to anyone. The Corrodes, they then gave a decent go, but they still lost 14-12, so I don't really know what EG were cooking to close out this season, but yeah, lots of work to be done for them, I think, in the off-season. Do they build around Ye? Do they build around Derek? Like, what's the plan there? But, you know, I'm sure that things have to change regardless. EG gave 100 Thieves a bit of a layup, and, well, they slammed it into the net, and EG go out of the tournament, and, well, 100 Thieves continue on. Now, again, it's not clear that any of these teams are necessarily going to make it yet, because these are the championship standings. So, Crew are at 7. Now, they won't make it with 7, because it's guaranteed that one of the teams behind them will overtake them based on points. If you come 4th, you get 3 points. If you come 3rd, you get 4 points. So, one of NRG 100 Thieves Cloud9 at least has to finish 4th or better, so Crew are going to get overtaken. It's still all to play for. Lev can't make it on points, because even if they get 4 more points for coming 3rd, they're still going to end up behind the team that comes 4th, right? So Lev are going to have to make the finals in order to qualify, but they could still do so. Cloud9, 100T, NRG, those are, you know, one of those 3 teams pretty much, we think at this point, is going to be making it to the World Championship. Now, G2 have qualified guaranteed, and Leaf came out last night after much speculation in recent weeks to describe what's been happening recently and when he might return. So he says that he's been suffering with Crohn's disease, which can be particularly debilitating, so I'm really hoping that, because I think Get Right, a legendary Counter-Strike player, also suffered with Crohn's too, and you know, it can be a big challenge for these guys to play at a high level and deal with the repercussions. So wishing the best for Leaf, right? And you know, basically he's been in hospital for the last couple of weeks, he says. Not the most known info, but I've had Crohn's disease in the past month or so. I was probably suffering the worst flare-up or symptoms since my diagnosis when I was about 10 years old, which led to me having like no energy, not eating or drinking anything, with insufferable pain. So, but he now says that he's out of hospital now and have hopefully fixed his issues. So, not to say that he's like going to be cured or whatever forever, but the feeling is that he's past what he's been going through. It should only be better from now onwards. He says, I've been watching practice and on and off playing, but of course, big shout out to my boys. So yeah, we thought that he did come back for a scrim or 2, and then Baby Bay was back in. So this does make sense in hindsight about that. He says, you know, well done Baby Bay holding it down. Here's to being stable the rest of the year and getting the 3-peat and the champs win. See you guys hopefully sooner than later on the server. So he's hoping that he can get the champs win with the team. And he says, hopefully sooner rather than later, I'll be back on the server. But it's not like he's saying, oh, I'm going to be back next week, right? It's, you know, he's hoping that he's going to be better now to actually start playing again, but the energy levels and these other things are still going to be a bit of a concern. And he says that, yeah, it started pretty much after Toronto and it started flaring in a couple of ways. It's been an eventful couple of months, he says. So, yeah, Baby Bay was like, let's go. He's coming back, The Undertaker. But we'll see, right? Like, I think G2 have to be careful. There's no doubt that Baby Bay will go with them to the World Championship in Paris, just in case they need him, and they might well need him. But it's good to see that Leaf is at least improved, feeling better, and potentially able to return very shortly, maybe for the World Championship. For the rest of the playoffs, though, I imagine that Baby Bay will still be there. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. I'll just quickly mention before we close out with then, of course, what the bracket is actually looking like here in the Americas. So tonight, 2 more massive games. NRG play Lev, Cloud9 play 100 Thieves. Though, I mean, like, the losers of these both respective matches, they aren't going to make it, right? So just hugely important games. And after tonight, we'll basically have a 2-horse race for that final World Championship spot. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.